Alright, in continuation of me trying to isolate where my S30V issue on my Spyderco Smock lies, I am going to sharpen my Spyderco Manix in S30V on my Pride abrasive stones. Now, I just did a Benchmade sharpening with S30V and came out with very good numbers, so I'm expecting the same thing out of this knife. It's currently set at a 16-degree bevel, and it has a pretty high polish. Now, if any of you guys know from watching my channel, I prefer a high polish on my edges. I like the way they cut, but that's not really the reason I prefer a high polish. I prefer a high polish because I like the look of it. I like seeing that mirror reflection. That's basically what it boils down to. Alright, so we're going to start just like we did with the Smock knife. We're going to go 1K, 3K, 8K, 10K. I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to try to keep it updated. I've got a spreadsheet that shows all of the test results that I've done through my sharpenings with the Edge on Up edge tester. I'm not very good with spreadsheets, so it's really basic stuff. But if you're curious about it or want to see where some of the knives ranked in terms of my sharpening, I'll have that up. The description will have a link in it. Pretty much got my entire polished bevel transition now over to the 1K scratches. I've got the smallest of burrs and it's going across the whole edge, so I'm ready to switch sides. And that's one thing about these Pride stones, they work very, very quickly. They require very little pressure. They really are really nice stones. They're made in the USA, so that does put a little bit of a higher price tag on them. But given how well they work, I think they're worth it. Again, I'm kicking the knife up at a bit of an angle to get down into that choil. Checking my scratches, making sure I'm hitting where I need to be. I can still see missing the apex down here in the bottom and up here in the belly and the tip, so I'm not quite where I need to be. I'm just going to keep going, keep grinding until I get all the way to the apex. And it shouldn't take very long. Got just a little bit more in the belly and the tip area. I can hear that burr. I can feel a burr. So I'm pretty much done with this stone. Now I am going to do some finishing passes just to try to minimize or break that burr off. Now that I got the 3K stone out, I think my progression might have been different on the Smock knife. I think I might have went 1, 6, 8, 10K. I don't remember. It shouldn't really matter though. can see a spot on the shoulder that I completely missed on the 1K stone. So I'm going to have to correct it on this one. Well, I don't have to, but I'm going to. The nice thing is the Pride abrasive stones are pretty aggressive for their grit rating. So this stone is plenty coarse to do that. Yeah, I think that's going to be good enough. I feel a very small burr. I know that grinding sounds awful, but that's just what I'm going to have to deal with for a minute to get down into this base. I'm going to say that's good enough. Do a few finishing passes. Alright, this is my 8K from Pride Abrasives. It is polishing the bevel a little bit, although you won't obtain a mirror polish or a bright polish off this stone. It'll put you in position for the 8 or the 10K rather to do that. And again, I prefer the aesthetic of a highly polished edge, so I tend to polish almost all of my knives to a high luster. I'm sure most of you who watch my channel already know this, but for new viewers or others who just don't pay attention, almost every knife you ever see me sharpen will get this kind of treatment. Is it required? Absolutely not. You do not have to take a knife to a high polish or a fine grit to get a sharp edge. In all honesty, the sharpness comes from the first stone. I could stop at that 1K stone strop and that knife would be just as sharp as it will be when I'm done with the 10K. However, I don't spend all this time on these stones just for sharpness. I also want it to look good. I want the sharpness, of course, to be there, but that's not why I go through 4 and 5 stones per video. I do it to get a high polish. I do it because that's what I like on my knives. So now that I'm getting this bevel polished, I'm starting to see all the mistakes I made getting to this point. I've got like 3 bevels stacked on top of each other like a staircase where I was holding my angle incorrectly. The reason that's occurring is because I'm sharpening this way head on. It's very uncomfortable to me, very unnatural. I've tried, you know, doing my little 45-degree angle trick here, but I can't get all the way to the choil doing that. So I've got to reposition back to this to get down there, and unfortunately things just aren't coming together. It'll all blend in once I get it stropped up. It'll just make the edge convex, which is not a big deal. I like a convex edge as much as I like an aesthetically mirror polish pleasing edge. I'm pretty much done on this stone. And the final stone, my 10K. Again, as you can see, very little metal is being deposited on this stone. It's cutting very slowly. Forgot to put my light on. Hopefully I didn't throw anything off. So very little cutting is actually occurring on this stone. But I'm not after the edge that this stone can produce. I'm after the polish. And once again, you do not have to go this far to get a sharp knife. You can stop at any stone you want, be it coarse, medium, or fine. I do enjoy the way it push cuts, don't get me wrong. There are other benefits to going this fine, but it is not necessary. And I am just about finished here. I still got a ton of scratches from my other stones, but that's all right. This stone's not going to get them out. It's just too fine. Stropping duties is going to fall on white compound. It's a DLT XL strop. In my opinion, this is the best strop you can get. Another viewer was telling me about Bark River white compound, watching Virtue Vice and Dutch bushcraft knives back in the day. They used to rant and rave about how awesome that compound was. Now that they're making their own strops and using Portland Knife House diamond paste, you don't hear them talk about it as much, but they used to love this stuff. So I'm thinking about buying a bar of it and giving it a try. And that should be plenty. And that is sharp all the way through. Alright, let's see where this edge is at. 118, 51, 88. So that comes out to an average of 86. Why did the first test read 118? I don't know. That edge on up edge tester's never been consistent. You just gotta take the number as a data point. I can tell you that's very sharp. That is a very, very keen knife. I mean, I can cut waves in this thin Harbor Freight paper. What does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the Pride stones are perfectly capable of sharpening Spyderco S30V. That also tells us those stones are perfectly capable of polishing Spyderco S30V. Now, it's not the brightest mirror finishes I've ever gotten, but it's not bad. I'll take it. You can see how large his bevel is. Like I said, it's 16 degrees according to my edge protractor. But it is a pretty large bevel, and that's because it's so thick behind the edge. This is a pretty stout knife. It would be a good workhorse if you used it for such. You can see the scratch patterns right there. You can also see my multiple bevels right in here. Those Pride stones are expensive, but man, they sure do work. And they work so well together, you can do very large grit jumps. So if you just wanted a simple 3-stone setup, you could probably do, I don't know, they're 220, 1K, 10K, and be perfectly content. Guys, I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or comments, as always, leave them below. Y'all have a good one.